In this video, I'm going to go over the pen tool suite and also demonstrate how to trace a letter. And this is for the first part of your lab 2, making skeleton letters. In class, I demonstrated how to make the letter P, and so this video I'm going to demonstrate making the letter J. So if I go to my layers and I click on the letters, you can see how it registers in my layers. There's a little red square highlighted to the right. So what I'm going to do is, you can do a couple of things. You can turn this into a template layer, or you can also just lock it, and then that enables me to draw over it because it's locked, and then I'm not accidentally selecting the letter form. So you have to isolate it and lock it, and then it's easier to trace over. So then I'm going to get my pen tool suite, and if I go to my pen tool and click and hold, then I get my 4 tools. I go over to the far right column here where it's a little darker, and I just click on that or click off that, and I get my pen tools, which are handy to have. At this point, I'm going to make sure that my color palette is set up, and so I want to have and I'm going to go over to the right here where I have a nice little screenshot to demonstrate how you need to have your pen tool set up. You want to have the fill turned off and a black stroke. So what I can do is, if I click on this little swap fill and stroke button, it moves over, and then I can always highlight that so it comes forward. And if I need to change the color, I can double click on the little color swatch, and then I can, for example, choose red. But I actually want a color that's going to show up against the red, so maybe kind of a turquoise color will work. All right, so I've got my stroke turned on, I've got my pen tools, I'm ready to go. At this point, you're going to find that to zoom in is going to make tracing much easier. And in general, when you're constructing things in Illustrator, you're going to find it easier to zoom in and have a magnified view. So I can either use my zoom lens or my zoom tool to move in like that. Another shortcut I like is just to use, on the Mac it's Command, or on the PC it's Control. So you do Command or Control and the plus sign on your keyboard. And if you want to make something smaller and zoom out, you can do the same Command or Control key with the minus sign. So there's a few ways to get your screen ready for optimal tracing. So then I'm going to grab my pen tool, and I'm going to start tracing. And if I lay down a point, then I can lay down, oh, this is all red, this is not going to work. So I thought it was going to be a different color. Let me fix that, and actually I'll turn that into a turquoise color. Okay, and normally when you work with text, you want to have the fill turned on and the stroke turned off. When you're tracing text, you want to have the opposite. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to lock this. Then I'm going to choose a color. I'll choose black. And then I've got my pen tool here, make sure my stroke is turned on. And there I'm set up ready to start tracing. So I grab my pen tool and I put my first point down. I'm going to hold down the Shift key to make a perfectly straight line across. And as you can see, these points are really particular, so you might want to even zoom in more. Sometimes when you're tracing, you might feel like your stroke is too thick, so you can always adjust the stroke weight. And I'm going to go get my stroke window so you can see how that works. It's only 1 point, but because I magnified in, it might seem like it's heavier. So a 0.5 seems to be a nicer weight to work with. All right, so I'm back on my path, and as you can see, I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and because I want a straight line. Oops. So if you lose, this is a good thing, if you lose your line, you know, I lost my line. All you have to do is go back and click on that point again. Click on that anchor point. And then I'll hold down the Shift key, and there's my line back. And then I'm going to go, you know, I could do a stroke here, you know, and then, but what I'm going to do is I've got this curve, and I'm wondering the best way to get a nice curve there. So I'm just going to go to kind of where the curve is almost finished. And then when I click, I'm going to hold down, and I'm going to see how snug I can get that point. And that's pretty good. I can always go back and fine tune it later. Remember, you can lay your stuff down and then go back and edit it. And I'm going to zoom out at this point, so Command or Control minus. Hold down the spacebar key so I can reposition my artwork. And then I'm going to click on my line, and I can always come back and adjust. So I'm going to put a curve now. The fewer points you make, in some ways, I think the easier it is to create smoother curves. But you have to just kind of work with it in the beginning. You might have to add points, or you might have to convert points or take away points, and that's why we have our pen tool suite up there. My next line, as you can see, it wants to curve, and this is a horizontal kind of flat terminal. So what I'm going to do is go back to my last anchor point. I'm going to hold down the Option key, and then that shifts from being a curved line to a straight line. And then I have my straight line. Your Option key or your Alt key if you're working on a PC. And then I'm going to go up, kind of try to get that curve. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to go up again and get a bit of a curve. It's a very subtle curve. I'm going to go up. It's pretty much a straight line. And then I'm going to see if I can snug in that curve. And those are pretty hard to get first off. There I have my curved line coming again, so I know to hit my previous point and click on the Option or the Alt key, and then I can close my shape. That's really important to close your shape. Let me go through that again. Okay, so I don't get the line I want, so I go back to my previous point. I hit the Option or Alt key, click. And you can see when I do that, I get my little convert tool. I could call it the convert because it converts a straight line to a curved line, or a curved line to a straight line. And then you can see when I go to close my trace, I get the little circle there, and that means that now I have a closed shape. All right, so it's not too bad. I can see a couple of little iffy places. So that's a good start. Now what you want to do is edit that. And to edit that, I use my white arrow tool, the direct selection tool. And then I'm going to zoom in. I might even select that and get a finer line, 0.25. That's about as thin as I can make it. I could always customize it. I could probably do like 0.125, but 0.25 should be good. Those are the default settings. And then you can also put in your own custom setting if you want. All right, so here I'm going to, sometimes I can just nudge out with my arrow key, but you can see that is too much of a, and sometimes you can't get exactly how you want it. You know, I'm having a hard time getting where I want to place my point. So what you need to do is you have to zoom in, and when you zoom in, you have more control over the placement of your point. See that? All right, and then I can also pull it down just a hair, and now I can see that my lines are a little off. So I don't know if I can. You know, if I get it looking good at the bottom, then it's too much at the top. So let's see what we can do here. I'm I'm going to add a point, so I'll go to my plus sign and I'm going to put a point right there. And let's see if I can just make this a little nicer. So I'm going to just place it there, and then I'm going to adjust the handlebar and see if I can just nudge that stroke so that it hugs the line a little bit better. That's already an improvement. Okay, and how about this one? You have to zoom in to really see what you have here. This one I might be able to just adjust on my own. Yeah, I think that just a slight nudge of the handlebar there helps. And then I'm going to go down. That's looking pretty good. And I know I have down here this point I wasn't really happy with. So let me see if I can use one of the handlebars to nudge that and then nudge it a bit there. And something like that. Just pulling the handlebars out gives me a little more leverage on the curve. And I'm going to see if I can snug that one in at the bottom, snug that one there. So it's kind of like massaging your letter forms. All right, and looks like I have one more place over here that maybe I can nudge just a bit. Yeah, I'm going to move this point down and see if that gives me a little more control. So now my bottom part is good. And let's see. I might try to take this point out up here and see if I can, using my white arrow tool, if I can nudge that handlebar. Every time you fix one part, you might have to readjust another, but I'm getting pretty close. Okay, and maybe I'll just lower that a bit. Hug it in a bit. Something like that. Let's see here. I might have to add a point up here because it's a little hard to get the thickness that the letter has. There. Okay. So there, you can see how you have to kind of massage your letter forms with moving handlebars and maybe editing points, either adding or subtracting or converting. And then I'm going to turn off the template so I can see my letter form. And there's my letter J. If I want to make it the same line weight as my P, then I can go and now I can increase that. And I think, let's see what that is. That's 0.5. Yeah, it's 0.5, and now that's 0.5. So there are 2 out of my 3 letters. And then the last one, I would turn on my template again, and I would trace my letter B. All right, and just to review, when you have these counter spaces, I think the easiest thing is to trace the overall shape. So you would have a complete fill, and then you can go in and trace the counter spaces and turn them white and place them on there. I think that's the easiest way to make those kinds of letters. All right, so that's your video for using the suite of pen tools, right? The suite of pen tools, your direct selection tool, the white arrow tool, and making sure that your stroke is filled and your fill is turned off so that you can create nice strokes. And really what I'm looking for in the end is just the lines, right? So I would just hand in the 3 letter forms like that because it's really a line exercise. Can you use the pen tool and create, really nice letter forms, okay?